Welcome to the Dan Sports Tips Major League Baseball preview for the divisional round of the baseball playoffs. Obviously, I'm back. I've had a break for a few weeks because baseball season was just not treating me kindly. No matter what I did, it didn't seem to be going my way. So here we are. We're off the back of the first losing regular season for me in 5 years. I've had some good playoff runs before. I'm hoping to do that again now. I'm going to start the show with a moment of silence just for them to mourn the passing of my team, the Chicago White Sox season, yet again without any meaningful October baseball. Thank you for joining me in paying those respects. I'm going to be looking at 3 of the 4 series today. Obviously, the Chicago Cubs and the San Francisco Giants is not priced up by the bookmakers yet. This is due to, obviously, the Giants only winning the wild card game against the Mets late last night. I'm going to dive straight in with Boston Red Sox and the Cleveland Indians. I'm going to look at Game 1, which is a clear pitching mismatch. Rick Porcello has been outstanding the whole year. He's probably going to win the American League Cy Young Award. You would have had a lot of money for that at the start of the year. He's faced Cleveland one time this year. He did win that start. He's got a solid 2.84 ERA over 12 career starts in the ballpark in Cleveland. Trevor Bauer will oppose for the Tribe. He's been hit hard in 2 appearances against Boston this year, one of which was as a reliever. He has a 12.91 ERA across those starts. That is ballooned a little bit by the 2 earned runs allowed in the single inning of relief early in the year. But his start wasn't exactly successful either. Bauer has a better road ERA as well, so the game being in Cleveland is something of a negative. I tried to find a positive for Trevor Bauer in this matchup. I could only find the one. That is the fact that his ERA drops by almost 2 runs when he's pitching a night game. He has fallen apart somewhat in the second half. He reached the All-Star break with a solid record. He was 7-3 with a 3.30 ERA at the break. Post-break, he's gone 5-5 with a 5.36 ERA in 15 starts. Now, whether or not you believe in the Francona revenge factor here or not, this is simply one of the year's best pitchers going up against an opponent who is outmatched and is not a legitimate Game 1 starter in Bauer. And I'm going to take the Boston Red Sox on the run line to win Game 1 comfortably against the Cleveland Indians tonight. Looking ahead to the rest of the series, I actually do quite like Cleveland's chances of turning it around after tonight's game. Tomorrow sees the matchup of their ace Corey Kluber coming off a standard strong second half of the season for him against David Price. David Price has had some struggles in the postseason in his career, including with Toronto last year. Cleveland are going to need to win that game before flying to Boston. They don't want to go there down 2-0. In Boston, they get to face Clay Buchholz and Eduardo Rodriguez. Now, Josh Tomlin, who's righted the ship after a horrible little run in the middle of the season there, with a solid September. I like his chances to beat Clay Buchholz. I can't trust him despite a reasonably solid September, where, you know, he did pitched well against everyone except the Yankees. Eduardo Rodriguez has also, you know, been a bit up and down this year. He was horrid at the beginning. He's been better since he came back from his stint in the minor leagues, but he's still not trustworthy. Worst case, I see them splitting the games in Boston. So if they can win Game 2, which I think they can with Kluber on the hill, worst case, this gets to Game 5 back in Cleveland for them. Potentially, they could win both the games in Boston. So what I'm going to play for the series is Boston to take Game 1 and lose this series at 11-2. I'll take Cleveland to win the series 3-1. Cleveland to win the series 3-2. I'll split my stakes on that. They're both 9-2 as well. Arguably the most intriguing series in this first round of the playoffs is going to be the Washington Nationals and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, Game 1 of this is tomorrow. I think without a doubt, looking at these teams, neither of them will be an easy matchup in the next round for the Chicago Cubs if we assume that the Cubs navigate the Giants. That's to be debated at this stage. With the state of the rosters, though, I do think the Dodgers are probably a worse matchup from Chicago's perspective at this point. I will start with the elephant in the room. That's Clayton Kershaw in the playoffs. He's been pretty horrible in postseason play throughout his career, sporting a 4.59 ERA in postseason play. He is the Game 1 starter for the Dodgers in Washington against the ace of the national staff, Max Scherzer. Washington have got some issues with their team. They're down Wilson Ramos, one of the best hitting catchers in the game. Bryce Harper, the reigning MVP, hasn't really hit all year. Daniel Murphy, who finished a hair behind DJ LeMahieu for the batting title this year, also finds his status a little bit up in the air as well. And that's just the hitters. Steven Strasburg, the 1A, number 2 pitcher, whatever you want to call him in this rotation, will not pitch in this series either. All said and done, I'm certainly happy to side with Max Scherzer as an underdog in Game 1. He is as capable as Clayton Kershaw of shutting a team down. I like the Nationals' relief pitching if necessary, if the game goes to extras, to be used And they have to use them as well, more than the Dodgers relievers anyway. Scherzer started the year off colour. He's gone from strength to strength, finishing an outstanding second half, going 10-1 with a 2.86 in 15 starts since the All-Star break. Kershaw, we know he missed a large portion of the season with injury. He's been treated with kid gloves since returning from injury, with an eye on the postseason. If we add his postseason failures in, I think as an underdog, the Nationals are certainly worth a play to win Game 1 of this series. The rest of the series, this is where it gets complicated. The Dodgers have announced that they'll go with Rich Hill in Game 2, Kenta Maeda in Game 3. The Nationals have yet to announce who will pitch those games. My assumption is that Tanner Roark gets Game 2, Joe Gonzalez gets Game 3. Game 2 is going to be such a crucial game in this series, regardless of the winner of Game 1. The loser will not be able to afford to go down 2-0. It's a really strong matchup. You get the ultra-consistent pitcher in Roark against Rich Hill, who, when healthy, has pitched very well all year, but especially for the Los Angeles Dodgers since being traded from Oakland. He's got a 1.83 ERA in 6 starts in the Dodgers jersey. In Game 3, I think you probably have to give the edge to the Dodgers. Gonzalez looked like he'd pulled it together after a sort of rough patch in the season, but then September was a horrible, horrible month for him. He did beat the Dodgers the only time he saw them this year. Looking at Maeda, if you remove his final start against San Francisco, which was his worst outing of the year, he's kind of the anti-Gio Gonzalez. He's struggled a lot post-All-Star break when Gio Gonzalez looked like he'd figured things out, but then Maeda had a solid September to right the ship. We assume the Game 4 starters will be Julio Urias for the Dodgers against probably Joe Ross for the Washington Nationals. It just becomes super difficult to split all of these matchups, and I think we likely get the rematch of Scherzer and Kershaw in Washington to decide this series. The series does look set to go to Game 5. The key for Washington, if they're going to win, is going to be the success of the top 2 in the lineup against the lefties in Trey Turner and Jason Worth, and then getting them on base and getting one of the 3 in behind to knock them in. I feel if there's going to be a sweep in this series, then it's probably likeliest to be the Nationals. They obviously start with the 2 home games. They get Kershaw, who has struggled in the playoffs. They get Rich Hill, who's liable to blister up and have to exit a game early at any time. So if they go to LA 2 up, there is a chance they could get a performance from Gio Gonzalez against Kenta Maeda. So the way I'm going to play this series, I'm going to sort of split stakes. I'll take the Washington-Los Angeles Dodgers series to finish in Game 5. That's 6-4, and I will have a small play on the sweep for Washington, because that's a rather large looking 8-1 on Washington to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers 3-0. Then we come to the Blue Jays and the Rangers, the fight to the finish, the rematch from last year. This series has got everything you could want. You've got the Toronto Blue Jays beer throwing fans. Last year they were throwing their rubbish onto the pitch, beers. I remember a woman with a young child in the lower deck having beers raining down on her from the upper deck. Obviously throw in the beer that the fans thrown in the wild card game at Kim in the Baltimore outfield. A few racial slurs were reported at Kim and Adam Jones as well. It's fairly easy with the way the fans have behaved in recent times to root against these Toronto Blue Jays. Let's not forget that punch as well. Rougned Odor and Jose Bautista meet again. This time it's personal. Now let's get on to actual baseball. Cole Hamels against Marco Estrada in Game 1. Initially you look at that, you listen to that, you think Cole Hamels, and I can make a relatively strong case for him, but he hasn't been as effective at home this year. His ERA is almost 2 runs higher in Arlington. He failed to beat Toronto in the divisional series last year in 2 attempts, despite pitching well with a 2.70 ERA. In fact, Cole Hamels has never recorded a win as a starter against the Toronto Blue Jays. In the regular season, 4 starts, he's gone 0-2 with a 6.97 ERA against them. Marco Estrada is not a pitcher that I look at and think, wow, he's good. He had a rocky patch early last month, but he finished the year with 3 solid starts, and in all honesty, he continues to get results and defy my viewpoint on him. His start in Arlington this year did not go well. He allowed 5 earned runs in 6 innings. He was still the winning pitcher that day because this offense bailed him out. In Toronto, 6 innings of one-run ball against the Rangers. So a mixed bag. I trust the Toronto relief pitching more than I do Texas. That ups the pressure on the Rangers starters to produce a little bit. I just suspect that the Jays may ride the walk-off wave in the wild card game against the Orioles into this series. Both lineups are dangerous. I think there are arguably more threats top to bottom in the Jays lineup. Looking ahead to game 2, J.A. Happ against Yu Darvish. Makes a lot of sense to take Yu Darvish, especially as Texas hit left-handed pitching well. But J.A. Happ has been outstanding the second half of the year. He's gone 8-1 with a 2.94 ERA in 14 starts since the All-Star break. The only time he saw Texas was prior to the break. He pitched 7 innings of 1-run ball that day. Darvish enters the playoffs off of a poor month of September. It was his worst month of the season. His last 3 starts at home, he's allowed 14 earned runs in 15 innings. I'm perfectly willing to take a shot on Toronto taking this series back home 2-0. And at that stage, it would be Aaron Sanchez pitching at home against one of AJ Griffin, Martin Perez, Colby Lewis, Derek Holland maybe. In all likelihood, I would expect the Brooms to be out north of the border in that circumstance, so at a tasty enough price, I'm willing to take the Toronto Blue Jays to sweep the #1 seed in this series. As such, I don't feel a need to actually place a bet on game 1, as that's arguably going to be the key game to this bet, and I will take the Toronto Blue Jays to beat the Texas Rangers 3-0 at 8-1 with Ladbrokes. Let me know in the comments what you think is going to happen in the playoffs this year, what you think is the key to each series, who you think is going to win, where you think I've got it wrong. Don't forget to hit that like button. Please do subscribe to my channel. I'll be here throughout the playoffs. I'm here all season long in the NFL with regular NFL content as well. If you're looking for daily fantasy stuff, I'll be back with a daily fantasy show tomorrow when there's a 4-game slate, because I don't like playing the 2-game slates on DraftKings. Don't forget to give me a follow on Twitter at dansports.tips. Best of luck if you're having a play today, and I'll see you later.